Hello everybody, thanks for watching this video. And the purpose of this video today, I'm going to do a head-to-head comparison of the Yi Lite Action Cam, which is a relatively new release, fall of 2016, I believe. No, fall of 2017 actually. And versus this Lite 4K camera. And now this camera, the Lite, this could be a stand-in for any of the budget 4K cameras coming out of China. And of course what I mean by that is it runs the Novatech processor, and they come under a various number of names like Lite. If you go on Amazon right now, you can just do a search and you're going to see at least a half dozen to a dozen different named manufacturers for this identical camera. And now this was a particular camera that I bought on sale. It was $30 on clearance. So the company selling them on Amazon was trying to clearance them out. But you're going to notice they're all generally the same camera. They have the same buttons, the same inputs, and the same software set when you turn it on. So it's a Novatech processor camera, and though technically it does a 4K setting, for the purpose of this video, we're going to go head to head and both use 1080p 60. And so the Yi Lite, while it does have a 4K setting, it only currently goes to 20 frames per second. And so again, the bread and butter for both of these cameras is going to be your 1080p at 60 frames per second. And so I want to go head to head because there's a huge price difference between these two, but that's not always the case. If you go onto Amazon right now, you might be able to pick up a camera like this. If it's not on sale, between $40, $60, $70, you can get this type of camera here. The Yi Lite, however, the average price is $100, and they usually have some kind of a sale, so you can get it for around $80, sometimes even less. And so the difference is, of course, the Yi Lite, the Yi comes from a more reputable action cam company, and the software is going to be a little bit better. And of course, this camera does have a touch screen. So let's go ahead and turn it on. And so it's a little bit more refined, but in terms of raw capability, I want to see which of the two is better. So the battery's low on this one right now, but I'm going to show you some head-to-head footage, and I want you to gauge your opinion, compare which camera is doing better. Both of them are going at 1080p 60. The latest Yi update, the firmware update that I just updated to, as of right now, it does not have an auto ISO setting for video, so it's set at 1600 ISO, whereas the Lite camera is just at the auto setting for ISO. But besides that, they're basically the same. You might notice a slight difference in field of view on these two cameras, and I think that's just a difference with the lenses themselves. But for the most part, I held these two cameras just right side by side on a rig, and let's do some head-to-head comparisons, and you tell me what you think is better between the two. And of course, for this first clip, I accidentally left both of the audios on, so after the first clip, you're going to see I'm switching between the audio from one camera to the next, just so you can get an idea of which sounds better. The Yi Lite does have image stabilization, the electronic image stabilization, whereas this one does not, and very few of your budget Chinese action cams are going to have image stabilization built in until you get to the price point where you're approaching the Yi. So keep that in mind, and then we'll talk about that in a minute as well. So check out the comparison footage, you tell me what you think is better in the comments, and then we'll come back for a discussion. Okay, so we are back, and after looking at all that footage, in my opinion, I think the Lite camera actually looks a little better. Now, I'm not a professional. I'm just looking at the footage as you see it on the camera. I think the colors are a little brighter. The actual quality is a little more crisp on the Lite compared to the Yi Lite. And that's just my opinion. Where the Yi comes in and shines, of course, is that it does have the electronic image stabilization. So you can see in one of those clips, it was super smooth as it was filming compared to the non-stabilized footage from the cheaper action cam. And I've noticed, filming with the image stabilization turned on, when you do turn it on, you do lose a little bit of fidelity. It does kind of reduce some of the crispness of the footage, and I'm sure that's just because the processor on this camera has to work a little harder to keep that footage stabilized. And so the real comparison, in my opinion, would actually be, what if you're filming with both of these cameras, we turn off the stabilization, but we put them into a gimbal. So now let's look at a clip of both of these cameras with the stabilization turned off on this one, and let's stick them in the gimbal and then see the comparison again. So even after seeing all of this footage from both cams, again, I am not a professional. It seems the Yi Lite, in my opinion, shoots a little bit more duller in terms of color compared to the Lite. And I know they're totally different processors. This one does have the Novatech, like I mentioned, and this one has a high silicon processor. So where the Yi Lite really does shine, though, it has the touch screen. And it's behind a reputable company. I mean, they have a website, they provide firmware updates. This is the newest camera from Yi. They have the 4K, the 4K Plus, and the original Yi camera, which has been totally hacked and can do some amazing stuff. And so if this camera gets as well adopted as the original Yi camera, we can look forward to a lot of community support and really cool updates in the pipeline for this piece. Now this camera is meant to be the same form factor as the higher end 4K and 4K Plus cams, which means it uses the same case and everything, but the touchscreen is really awesome. And where this camera really shined, in my opinion, compared to this cam, is in the software, because it comes with the app that works with your phone, and totally hands-free. I can leave this camera in the gimbal, and I can just do all the connections from my phone. It's very easy to control, and the battery life is really good on this camera. This particular cam did come with 2 batteries, and it does have Wi-Fi and an app as well, but the app on this one was not custom designed for this camera, and so it's designed to connect to a myriad of these Chinese clones. And so as a result, it's really funky, and I really never used it besides a few times because it's so clunky, it's not really worth the effort. It disconnects, it's really random in how it operates. And so the Wi-Fi on this one is practically non-existent. And so this camera on its own is good. Comes with the 2 batteries. It comes with a whole host of mounts and waterproof cases and all that good stuff, whereas the Yi was just on its own. But where I think this camera shines, even though looking at the footage I think this one looked better, where the Yi Lite really shines is in the software, in the app, and just in the user interface. It's just so much easier to operate. And of course you can look up any number of reviews on this camera that are out there so far, and you'll see examples of that, so I'm not going to really go into that. That's not the purpose of this video. But in terms of comparing the two, I think if you're going to spend anywhere around the same amount of money, the Yi Lite is going to be your better bet. Now, that being said, if you find one of these cameras on clearance, you can get it for $20, $30, $40. Definitely pick one up. It's great to have as an extra camera to stick around, and it's fun just to have them to play around with. But if you were just going to get one of these 2 cameras, I would still lean towards the Yi, just because of the interface and because of the app. It makes it 100% more user-friendly, and especially when you are using the gimbal, it's kind of a pain in the butt to get it in and out of the gimbal, and even though it has a touch screen, it's still kind of hard to poke around while it's in there. And using the app, while you have the gimbal in one hand, you can have your smartphone in the other, and you can have access to all of the features that the app offers. And it's a really cool app. Works really well. And so even though the image quality, in my opinion, is not as nice on the Yi as it was on the cheaper cam, I still would prefer the Yi. And so that's just my opinion. Of course, if you guys are professional photographers, feel free to leave a comment if you think that for some reason the muted colors on the Yi were better. Maybe for post-production they're better. I'm not too sure. I'm not an expert on this matter. But I wanted to give my opinion because this is still a relatively new camera. It just came out this fall. And I wanted to put another video on YouTube about it because there really aren't too many at this point, besides from a few of the big channels, which I recommend you go view all of the reviews for this camera out there so far. Because what Yi basically did is they took a lot of the really cool features of their 4K and their 4K Plus models, and they shrunk it down, so to speak, and put it into a cheaper cam. So now if you need 4K, go for those ones, but if 1080p 60 is going to make you happy, I think the Yi Lite will make you happy. So hopefully this video helped in making any buying decisions. And remember, this camera is not representative of LightDAO. It's just representative of all the cheap Novatech processor cameras that you can find on Amazon or eBay or GearBest or any of those websites out there today. But again, please leave any comments if you have any questions about how I did this. I tried my best to show the good comparison between the two. But thanks everyone for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.